glass up high. Turn it up, it's time. Tall boy on the line. Loud breeze, they will last. Raise your glass up high.
Welcome back to episode 302 of the Tall Boy Radio podcast. And as we always say, who knows where it goes when the beer flows? Well, that beer is flowing in the direction of New York City, as it were, to hear some more New York tales from one of our favorite guests. But before we say hello to him, I need to say hello to country number 82, Belarus. Can you remember the last time we had 3 episodes where we said hello to new countries joining us?
No, even in the world. No, I can't. When we started many moons ago, it was like, oh, I wonder whether we'll get some listeners in England, and then it was like America, and then it was a few other places, and now we're in 82 countries. I can't believe it.
Unbelievable. Who would choose to listen to us? Well, you. So thank you very much for doing so. But Vernon,
Thank you.
Vernon, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Did you want to say hello and just remind our listeners who will have heard you many times before a little bit about yourself and your illustrious career?
Well, I retired as a lieutenant commander from the NYPD in charge of Bronx homicide, but today we're going to talk about some of the cases that get you into homicide, because you have to develop a skill set. And dealing with major crime figures and wiretaps and eavesdropping warrants and surveillance and people, dealing with people, you got to know people in order to deal with them. Before you get to homicide, you should have a good, solid background. And the case we're going to discuss today is an example of the development of that type of background. Not to mention, I did go to school and get a couple of degrees, but I don't brag on that, because despite the 2 master's degrees, I didn't lose my common sense or my morality.
Yeah, those two seldom go hand in hand. Yeah. So for those who have listened to your stories before, we've covered different parts of your career. Mainly, we've been looking at the homicide part of it. But on this occasion, we've called the episode Operation Octopus, which is named after a section from your book, and it deals with a very complicated case and a very convoluted case that you dealt with. What were you working as at that time?
I was a detective sergeant. I had just left major case. I spent 2.5, almost 3 years in organized crime major case downtown Manhattan. And during that time, we worked a major mafia case for 1.5 years. We did a major distribution of cocaine on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And then I got involved in a Colombian cartel investigation, which was another wild caper, dangerous people. And then what happened is that Harlem and Manhattan North was so out of control with the drugs and the major drug violators that they took our major case units and stuck us into Manhattan North. So I came along with a team that was really well versed, and I had worked in Harlem as a detective, as a sergeant, as an anti-crime cop, so I know the area. So it was just a matter of transitioning into major case narcotics with black major violators, which I did for a period of time. And then I was also looking for other type cases when all of a sudden this informant came forward. She called herself a former madam. I don't know if there's such a thing, but she claimed she'd be acting as a good citizen, and she had a mafia connection that could get us drugs. Well, we're in the drug business. So it started out in September of 1976, and the informant was introduced to this guy, we'll call him Joe. Okay. And he was supposedly a mafia figure. And they had a good discussion, and they talked back and forth. And he said he could get drugs from him. So fine. After the undercover left, I maintained discreet surveillance to see where we could put this guy, to see if we could find a residence. Let me tell you, he was very cagey. I mean, this guy was tail conscious. He took us on a circuitous route through Manhattan, west side. Then he went to the east side, in an Italian section. Then he laid low, and he was a hard guy to try to put a place on. You like to have a residence, so you know where these guys are. Then he called for another meet with the undercover, and he said, well, I can't get the drugs right now, but are you interested in helping me do a heist at a JFK International Airport? That's a big deal. So the undercover says, well, I don't know, tell me more about it. He said, well, I'll get back to you, because this guy never gave all the information. So the first thing I did as the supervising sergeant, I called down to intelligence to find out, is there any other unit working a mafia case at the JFK airport? And sure enough, it was him. He was already under investigation. So I said, well, that takes care of that. About a month later, there's a big headline. He gets locked up with 2 other guys and was told that he was part of a famous gang in the mafia called the Bypass Gang. They were excellent at cracking safes and doing big jobs. And it looked like it was pretty serious. We're talking about $15 million. Well, I don't know what happened with the federal case, but whatever it was, there was more smoke than fire, and was reduced to a misdemeanor and something else that his lawyer told him, don't worry about it. They did something wrong or whatever. So now it's November. So he reaches out to my undercover again through the informant. Tell Herbie I want to meet him. Okay. So at this point, I established a landline in one of our, what we call plants, where he would have a phone that could be answered by an answer machine, but also he could talk to him and we could record the conversations. So he asked for a meet, and the meet goes down, and I think it was November. And he says, Herbie, I'm glad you weren't part of this thing. It turned out to be bad. Well, ironically, by him getting busted and the undercover being exposed and the informant, our guy became a good guy. So we're building trust in this wonderful world called organized crime. And boy, let me tell you something, it's difficult. Yeah. Meanwhile, we had this new lieutenant who arrived. I had already dealt with him a couple of times. And for the purposes of the folks listening to us, if you had the opportunity to see Clint Eastwood in Park Break Ridge and the captain or the whatever he was, the Major Malcolm Powers from Supply insisted on going operational. And I found myself in the position of Thomas Highway, the gunnery sergeant, dealing with a complete fucking asshat and trying to maintain the integrity of the investigation. It was tough. But he met the undercover, and he had about 3 or 4 jobs he just talked about. He said, well, I have a warehouse in Connecticut I'd like to hit. And there's 2 Jewish jewelers who have to kill him because $100,000 in jewels and cash will split it. And also I have this armored car job that I'm setting up. So undercover comes back. He says, boss, this guy talks about killing people like nothing. I said, well, we can't do the hit, so let's find out what happens. But if you think about it, if we could have done the hit, what a great cover, huh? Nobody would have figured the cops would do a hit. Well, that wasn't it. He meets again in January, and he's talking about doing a heist at a big department store in Long Island. But once again, being a real old-time mafioso, he doesn't give up details. He just talks in general. And he talks about you'd have to stay in the store overnight. When the place is closed, when the manager comes in the morning, you're going to have to kill the manager and the other person. There's $100,000 in the safe. He got all this inside information because he's dealing with a bad guy on the inside, a corrupt employee. Mm-hmm. So we said, well, we'll try to follow this. But by the way, what happened to the drugs we want to buy? Oh, the drugs aren't here yet. And then he comes up, and I forget the date. You'll have to look in the book, I guess. I don't know. He comes up with, he has counterfeit money. And let me just refresh my recollection. Yeah, it's January, and he wants to know if my undercover is interested in buying counterfeit $100 bills. And he gives him an example. Bring it back to your people, see what they think. It looked good. It was a good $100 bill. So I want to buy the money. The trouble is I'm in the narcotics division. Now, there ain't a lieutenant. If it's not narcotics, you can't buy it, right? I'm not even going to talk to him. I go downtown to a deputy inspector. He knows who I am. I said, listen, inspector, this guy's OC. You and I both know they're involved in everything. We should buy the money for the credibility. So he authorizes me to buy $30,000 worth of counterfeit hundreds. Then he gives me the name of a supervisor in the Secret Service division. So I call the Secret Service division. I set up a meet, and they knew about the hundred. They didn't know where they were coming from, but they knew about the hundred in New York City. So I plan a meeting. I go back to the command. I'm going to call this Lieutenant Asshat. Okay, he's having a coronary. He said, "We're not supposed to. Why did you go downtown?" I said, "Because I needed direction, and you can't give it. Okay, this is an organized crime case. We have to buy the. I don't. We shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it." I said, "No, it's too late. It's done. I got the buy money." So now he meets with the suspect, and this is the best. The Secret Service comes up with a couple of nondescript cards, and we have nondescript cards for the tail. Lieutenant Asshat says, "I want 4 men in each car, 2 cars. I want 1 Secret Service and 1 New York City person in each car." So the Secret Service guy looking like, you can't follow somebody with 4 men in a car. I can see his eyes rolling, you know. So finally, he reluctantly agrees. "Oh, we're going to all use separate cars, but we're going to be in touch with each other with radios." So we go to cover the surveillance. Now he's in his own car because he's a big shot, which is great for me because I can operate. I'm with one of my investigators. So the meet goes down in Manhattan. The next thing you know, we're on a circuitous tail through Manhattan, over the bridge, into Queens, into Brooklyn. The best part of the story is he's trying to do something called a parallel audio surveillance, radio surveillance. When you have somebody in one block and you go the next block over, he read that in some sort of manual or something. It's not going to work with this guy. This guy makes different turns. So what happens? The asshat gets knocked out of the surveillance, which is terrific because now I got real cops and Secret Service agents following on undercover into eventually Brooklyn. Took about 2 hours for this to go down. And the undercover gets the $30,000 worth of counterfeit money. And I said to him, "Okay, report back to the office. We'll meet back at the office." He comes over here. "Do not go back to the office. Stay where you are. Sergeant, you meet him." I'm saying, "What the fuck is this?" "You ride back with him in his car." I says, "Did you ever think if the bad guys see me getting into his undercover's car, which looks like a super flymobile, they're going to think something's wrong?" Trust issue. He didn't trust anybody. He don't trust his own men. He doesn't trust the Secret Service. We get back to the Manhattan, and the 2 Secret Service guys go, "Who the hell is this asshole? And how did he get in charge of investigations?" I says, "He asked for it. He's from downtown. They made him. He's experienced the privilege of investigations." So we got the money. That's great. The best part is because we used our money, we can control the case. Secret Service can't operate unilaterally, which is important because this is a multi-agency case. So next time we get together, again, we're following him, different locations. And the second twist is the hit. And the hit doesn't go down because whatever the circumstances were, he's not available. So the next twist will be the armed robbery of a department store. Now, we don't know where this department store is, but it's in Long Island. That's in Nassau County. That's a different jurisdiction. So now I'm dealing with a different jurisdiction. Now, understandably, we don't have authority in Nassau County. We can take police action, but this has to go through the Nassau County's district attorney's office. So I let the inspector downtown know what's going on. He says, "Listen," he said, "I just talked to the DA. You're absolutely right. This is a Nassau County case at this stage. We have to give them the information so we can work a joint case." We still didn't know where the place was. This is the time we take another trip, and again, a very circuitous route out to Long Island to a JCPenney store. And he says, "We have an inside man. I got the floor plan, and this is how it's going to go down. You're going to be there overnight." So while they're walking through the store, my undercover officer, who's sharp as a tack, he purchases a pair of winter gloves and gets a receipt to show that he was in the store and bought these gloves, right? The guy who's the inside guy doesn't want to meet with him because he's black. The inside guy is not. So we make a plan to meet in Brooklyn. But the undercover says, "You're going to," he tells the undercover, "You need a second person because I can't show my face in this area." So Herb goes, "No problem. I got my buddy." That gives me an opportunity to introduce a second undercover police officer. So he says to the subject. Can you get us the guns? That's another charge. So we end up buying a 357 Magnum for the job. But now we know where the store is. So at this point, I have a moral responsibility and a professional responsibility to contact Nassau authorities. So I met with 2 detective sergeants. They were sharp guys. And I lay it out. I said, listen, we just found out where the store was. We knew about a hit, but we just found out what store it is. So they're getting together. And what happened was we got in touch with the Nassau County District Attorney's Office and their detectives. I gave them everything we had and the information we had, and they were very interested because that winter before Christmas season, another major department store was hit, Fortunoff, out in Long Island. They're thinking maybe this is the same team. So the bottom line is, since he said you have to kill him, that's dangerous, because if we don't take the contract and he gives it to somebody else, we know about a possible murder. You see how the tension is unbelievable, guys. I mean, you talk about the stress. Meanwhile, the asshat, you have no business going to Nassau County. I'm in charge. You usurped my authority. I said, you don't have authority in Nassau County. I want to speak to the people in Nassau. I said, no problem. Here's the phone. So he gets on the phone. I don't know what happened, but basically he gets off the phone. His face is red. His ears are all red. You know what they said to me? I said, no. They told me you can't be half pregnant, Lieutenant. And it was funny. I said, oh, this is going to be great. So now he's really lit up, and we're about to go to follow this through. And I set up with Nassau County. They're going to meet the subject, Joe, and the inside man at the JCPenney store. All the fans. Now, don't forget, we've got good radios and good electronics. We don't have cell phones. Okay, we're stuck. It's not. This is before the era of cell phones. You'd be surprised how difficult it is to operate without a cell phone.
Yeah.
So now we're out there, and all I have is a radio, and I have the wire, and we're following them out. Again, I'm by myself. I'm not with the lieutenant. I purposely go with one of my detectives, and we follow them out to Queens. I get my first ulcer. The store's closed. I go, shit. I notify now. I got all these outside units. Nassau County. The store's closed. Joe, the bad guy, he's not concerned. No, this is fine. That gives me an opportunity to show you what doors to use. This is the employee entrance. This will be left unlocked. This is this. And ulcer number 2, Wayne, the inside guy's not there. We want the inside guy there because it's going to be a total conspiracy then, right? So now I have to get on the horn, try to notify the other of us, get Joe to call Wayne. Wayne won't go out there. I can't be seen out there with you guys because I work at that store. So give us another location. So he gives us a location on a service road on the Long Island Expressway, which is about maybe half an hour from where we are. I set up a surveillance team, set the undercover. Then I get the third ulcer. The undercover's radio is dying. He's running out of batteries. I said, go use the restroom in the back. There'll be somebody there with a battery pack. This, if you're doing this in real time, it's frustrating as hell, because not only am I dealing with the dynamics of an investigation, but I got an asshat as a lieutenant in the mix. It's everything he does is ass backwards. Anyway, we finally get the meat. The meat comes together. I monitor it. I wire when I think we have enough for a good conspiracy case, because I'm sitting there with a Nassau detective. Move in, take them. We shut down the highway. We come in from all different directions. They're taken into custody. They're brought into the Nassau County, Nassau Police Department. And when the inside guy Wayne realized he was talking to 2 cops, he flips on the spot. I'll tell you everything, right? Not Joe. He's old time mafia. I'm not going to say get me an attorney.
Wow.
So, but it was really funny, because before this went down, we bought fraudulent tokens, subway tokens. So here we are before the robbery of the store. I'm using my money this time to buy tokens for the subway system, and you got to buy them in $1,000-piece lots. That's another charge. Now I'm involving the transit authority, and meanwhile, Lieutenant Asshat, he's having a carny because I'm spending my money and I'm not buying drugs. But boy, am I making a good case. And the inspector downtown is saying, you did a great job. So now he's under arrest, Joe, and the inside guy. But we traced the tokens to a place on 42nd Street. Now, on that particular deal, because I'm going to call him again, Lieutenant Asshat, insisted on riding with me to cover the purchase of the tokens. He thought he could control the case by riding with me. I said, okay, you're riding with me. I take up a position away from the store so nobody sees us. He spots an ATM machine. He wants to try his new ATM card. In the middle of a frickin' surveillance, he wants to leave the surveillance to try out his ATM card. I said, well, you better just, I'm sticking to surveillance. You wait, another unit's going to pick you up because I can't break the surveillance. Do what you have to do, Sergeant. Okay. So now I'm surveilling. And this other guy, one of my detectives, Stan, picks him up after he plays with his ATM machine. Now the undercover's parked in front of the store where the counterfeit tokens come from. He orders the cop to pull up to the undercover so he can give him instructions what to do. This is right in the middle of a buy operation. I couldn't believe it. By the grace of God, nobody saw it. I don't know how, because the subject came walking out at the same time, but he didn't catch it, right? And you couldn't miss this guy because his head is 3 times bigger than a normal head. We used to call him we used to call him headquarters when he wasn't looking. So now he's under arrest, and I said, I had to tell my guys, get a search warrant for that distribution store, because that's an incorrect operation. I don't know what they got going there besides tokens, but this is a mafia operation. It's a Friday. What he does, he says, he authorizes overtime for 2 detectives to come in on Saturday. Now, this is the same guy that wouldn't authorize overtime on a drug deal because he didn't want to look bad. But he cuts me out, he thinks. I'm not around. It's Saturday. So, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen? My guys tell me, this is what's going on. I says, good, tell him the place is closed. The store is closed on Saturday. All right, we're going to do it Monday morning when I come in. I'm in there Monday morning, 7 o'clock. I put 2 cars out there to surveil. Well, we're going to draw a tactical plan. What we're going to do, I says, you don't need a tactical plan. You got people out there. Why'd you do that without me? I says, because I don't want to lose them. All right, I got him under surveillance. He, again, insists on riding with me. I said, this is going to be good because he's going to get a shot. When we have our subjects in the store, I said, okay, hit it. Shot the door. Noise, bang, boom, boom. I pull up. He's shitting in his pants because I'm driving like a maniac. We get into the store. I get into the store, and let me tell you something. Beans, Gaz, you can smell organized crime in this place, all right? The guy behind the counter goes, no, I'm just minding the store for somebody. The guy with the keys, I found the keys, I'm holding them for the owner.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the phones are ringing off the hook, and I said, this place is really hot. So we start doing the search, and we have them under control, and I locate $20 counterfeit bills. And I know about the $20 counterfeit bills because the Secret Service told me about it. So I'm talking mob talk to these guys. Well, one of my 2 detectives, they're well trained. They came with me right through the major case all the way up. We know how to talk to them. So the guy says, listen, I'd like to talk about taking that counterfeit money off the counter. I said, no problem, but out in front of the lieutenant. He says, we're talking like buddies here, you know, we can't tell him anything. Yeah, I get it. So meanwhile, I have some shit I got to do, so I leave. I call up the internal affairs, I get a wire, and I come all ready to go back in there and conduct a bribery investigation with my detectives. I come back, and Lieutenant Dildo goes, what are you doing? I says, I'm going to do it right. There will be no bribery unless I participate. I says, I just cut you out. No, there won't be a... I said, the court is going. I said, whatever you want to, you're the lieutenant, okay? So we go in the back room, and they look at me like, what's he doing here? I said, don't worry about that. We start talking back and forth. Out of the clear blue sky, this dildo says, gentlemen, what kind of nefarious deal are we talking about here? You guys, open there. What? I said, shut the fuck up, you stupid bastard. And I call him by his name. right? That shut him up, right? He said, don't worry about nothing. The money's off the table. It's in my pocket. You're good to go. No problem. We got to continue to search. So he's all bent out of shape the way I treated him, but he almost blew it. Meanwhile, we got a hot tip. There's a truck driver with $5,000 worth of coats and clothing ready to make a deal. He's going to sell it all for $600 to this distribution place. So I said, we're going to go out and we're going to make another arrest. We're going to get this truck driver. We're going to get the stolen property. He insists on riding with me. He's not dressed like me. I'm dressed in undercover, right? So my cop, he's dressed, and with his big stupid head, he's sitting in the front right seat of the car like he's on patrol. As we pull up, I spot the tractor trailer, and I spot the driver off to the side watching. I get out of the car. He starts walking away. I said, Kenny, what are you doing? I got the money. He looks, and he goes, who's the guy in the car with the big head? I says, that's all from New Jersey, all right? Got the money, Kenny. He's all right, yeah. I got to check you out. I said, all right, we'll call. He gives me time. Call the store. I said, no, you call the store. I'm here with the money. I didn't know the number of the store. He calls the store. He gets one of my detectives, Bob. He says, these guys, 4 guys in a green car showed up. So I says, I grab the phone. So I said, hey, Bobby, tell this guy we're all right. He's all right. Those are the buyers. So we goes down. Now I got to call the precinct. We got to track the trail. I got to notify Merritt Trucking. They got to get their truck. We have to unload all the stuff we're going to take for evidence. Meanwhile, Dopey's sitting in the car. He don't lift a finger, right? As we're vouchering this material and calling for other cars to help get the materials that we have to safeguard, he disappears. We don't know where he went. Where's the lieutenant? I don't know. Well, he knew something about a bribery review board where you get brownie points if you make a bribery. I've been making bribery arrests all my life. I don't do it for points. I do it because it's part of the investigation. So he knew about this, and that's why he insisted. So where is he? He went back to the command. He's notifying everybody. He got bribed by the mafia and this and that, and he's writing up a report. So I didn't get back for 2 or 3 hours because everything had to be vouched. Everything, the evidence, we had the people in custody. Now we have a truck driver in the truck. I get back. He goes, where were you, Sergeant? Doing fucking police work. He says, I want you to sign this report. What's that report? That's for the bribery review board. I said, what's the bribery review board? Well, when you make a bribery, you go to review board and you can ask for an assignment. I says, oh, okay. So where's the names of the 2 detectives? Were they present for the bribery, Sergeant? I said, no, you cut them out. So I signed it. Right? I don't think nothing about it. We go back. We still have to continue the investigation. Now we have to execute a search warrant on the residence of the person who had the token, the counterfeit tokens, and we find a floor map for for J.C. Penney for the stick up. Then we go further, and it's like I called it Octopus. The tentacles are all over the place. We're executing search warrants at different locations, coming up with evidence. What he does, he wants, what happened after the Nassau case, there was a big write-up in the newspaper. The Nassau people didn't put his name in it because he was such an asshole, right? Now he's bent out of shape because my name there is representing New York City. So now he's pissed off like a little kid. And I don't care. My name's in the paper all the time. I don't need that. Anyway, he cuts me out of the search warrant. And he said, no, I will handle the search warrant with the transit. The transit people didn't even talk to him. They thought he was an asshole. They refused to talk to him. They have the warrant. It's their case. It gets better. Now, the guy that I tightened up for bribery, I had more respect for the 2 mafia guys trying to get out from under than that worthless eunuch of a lieutenant trying to get brownie points for a bribery review board. That's ridiculous. Yeah. So now it's funny. I'm finally home that night. How many hours I worked? So I'm working full. My phone rings. It's the mafia guy. He has my home phone number. Some bad cop sold my phone number to the bad guys. He goes, I said, where'd you get my phone number? He's, I have my sources just like you, Sergeant. I know where you live. I know who you are. I checked you out. You can't be bought. I know your reputation, but I can't be a rat. I just wanted to let you know that. And we have our sources also. I said, fuck. I immediately called the phone company, changed my number, notified the command, changed my phone number, right? I tell the asshat, you don't think, no, I tell the captain, this is bad, right? Somebody sold me out. But Beans, guys, let me tell you something. I've been working the mafia a long time. If you're not a bad cop and you're not on the take, they're not going to come after you because you're purer than Caesar's wife, right? You haven't done business with them. If you do business with them, then you're up for grabs.
Yeah.
And that's I'm hoping that old rule is still in effect.
Yeah, I can imagine.
All right. So anyway, that goes down. Now the next part is we're doing all the investigations. The Treasury Department, which is the Secret Service, based on our $30,000 buy, they put together a RICO case. Now, a RICO case is a racketeering, influence, organized crime, corrupt indictment. That's what they use on the mafia. It's called a RICO. They put together a RICO case. The whole case is based on my $30,000 purchase of counterfeit money. They end up going after a major mafia figure in Long Island, Sal Racci, okay? And they take him down with additional counterfeit money. So what happened is, and this case is really spinning out, the Transit Authority, they have another indictment for all the people who are making the tokens. So this is really big. It's very complex. But Lieutenant Asshat, he got the private review book. So I'm saying, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm hoping that I can continue. I don't see me doing another major case with this guy because he's going to get somebody hurt. If one of my undercovers got hurt because of his stupidity, I would feel responsible because I put him out there. And I know these guys and gals. I work with them. Well, what happens is we have another twist. What happens is the informant on our case decides to make a complaint against the police department and me and the narcotics and everybody else. So being the typical paranoid personalities that they are, she's being interviewed by a field control inspector to see if we violate any protocols or any procedures. Not Vernon. Vernon documents the shit out of everything he does. Believe me, I dot my I's and cross my T's. But what happens is the captain panics when the inspector, that's 2 ranks above captain, when the inspector says, I want to interview your Sergeant Geberth, and right? He calls my house and he can't get through. Well, he can't get through because my phone number's changed. The silly son of a bitch sends the local police from the town of Haverstraw to my house in Garnerville, right? To notify me to report forthwith to my command. Now, don't forget, I haven't been off for days. So I arrive at the command and I clean myself up a little bit because I'm not undercover now, going downtown. When I walk into the office, these 2 idiots look at me like I committed a felony. The captain shitting his pants and the lieutenant, he's gloating. Well, I knew he would do something. I knew he would do something. So now we got to go downtown. So I have to drive because I'm the lowest ranked person. So I drive. The captain gets in the front seat and the dildo's in the back seat, like a little kid. We get down to headquarters and the deputy inspector that I know meets and goes, what's going on? Everything's cool. Nobody's in trouble. Well, you told us to come down here. He wants to interview the sergeant. Well, the sergeant did a good job. He interviewed this informant for 2 hours and he couldn't find a thing. If he can't find nothing, there's nothing. This guy makes stuff up if he can't find it. So now the inspector said, you did a good job, Sergeant. Now the lieutenant, he's all bent out of shape because one of the things she said is the team wouldn't let us speak to the lieutenant because he's an asshole. So now he finds out that the informant thinks he's an asshole. Well, everybody thought he was an asshole, but now he heard it from the inspector's lips. Now he's all bent out of shape. So I get called into Chief Prosecutor Sterling Johnson's office. He's a chief prosecutor. I've worked with him over the years. He knows us. He says, Vernon, fill me in with this. What's going on? So I tell him what's going on. He says, okay, good, because we're just locking her up. She just tried to make a complaint against the district attorney's office also. So we're locking her up, right? So I walk in. Who's sitting in the cell? But the informant, okay, and her son, 2 conmen. So I'm laughing. So now we go back. The captain, he apologizes. Lieutenant, he's pissed off. He's still pissed off. Tough shit, we didn't do nothing wrong. Everything's fine. I don't know what's going to happen because I can't work with this guy, but I have to. He's a lieutenant. He's in charge of all the detective sergeants. Well, I get a call from a friend of mine, the precinct captain. We're going to talk about Operation Snatch now. And the precinct, I called it Operation Snatch because I wanted to make my last big dope bust because I'm leaving. I'm going to homicide. That's how I got out. Okay.
Yeah.
But what happened is before Snatch, I'm in the middle of Snatch when I get called down to field control to be recognized and to be interviewed about the bribery of the mafia figure. So I go down there and again, an inspector, full inspector. Congratulations, Sergeant. I see you made a bribery arrest. I says, yes, sir. But I said, that report you have is a bogus report. What? What did you say? I said, that's all bullshit. I said, let me tell you something. This is what happened. This is how this went down. And I tell them the whole story that I just told you. And by the way, I don't need to be down here. My detectives they need to be recognized. I got all the recognition I need. What's their names? So I give them the names. He says, thank you very much for your candid, blah, blah, blah. I go back to the command, right? I don't say nothing. I'm in the middle of Operation Snatch, and we're having a problem with him with Operation Snatch. All of a sudden, he gets called down. He comes back red in the face. What did you tell the inspector? So I told him the truth. Don't fuck with me. All right. So now Operation Snatch begins. And how this begins, I want to make one more big bust before I leave because it's in my DNA. All right. Big bust. I get a call from the precinct captain. They have a condition going on in the 30th precinct in Manhattan North, open drug sales. So I send my best undercover there, cold, Vic Sapulo. This guy is amazing. This guy's like a cat. No matter what happens, he lands on his feet. He goes into this block, which is loaded with bad guys. He works his way up to the main distributor. He purchases a couple of ounces of cocaine. All right, with my money, we cover it. Now, shithead's involved because he sees where this is going. This is a big case. So right away, he wants to be in charge. He starts telling me how to investigate it. I said, no, don't tell me how to investigate it. This is what we're going to do. We're already in touch with the district attorney's office. That product came back 50% pure, which means he's getting it from a direct source, probably a Colombian, in a different location. We get a wiretap. So what does he do? Why? He goes and reads up on wiretaps. I've handled hundreds. I've handled 30 or 40 wiretaps. He's now going to instruct us on how the wiretap should work. You know how aggravating this is? The guy who's with me is a wire man. He just shakes his head. He goes, what are we going to do? I said, just let him talk. So now we got the wire going, and he's interfering. He's telling, now we're going to try and make another buy. And I want to cover the undercover, but the problem is this block is so hot. They have what you call spotters that watch for any activity. They have spotters. So I said, let's pull back. Let Vinny do his thing. Vic is a great undercover. Let's give him plenty of room. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back, put my uniform on, get a marked car, and drive into the area. Because these mutts don't think nothing of the police cars, because the police are told that you should not do drug arrests because it's narcotics prone or violent prone, whatever the hell it is. Anyway, that's a good undercover trick. I'm about to go out. He orders me, you can't go. Do not go. I said, why not? You are not to go to that location in your uniform. So when it comes time to critique the investigation, the whole team says, what are you talking about? That's a tactic. That wasn't in the tactical plan. We didn't discuss that. You're deviating from the plan that I put together. So Jesus Christ. Anyway, here's the scheme. We know if we can get this guy on the wire to his connection, will be a Colombian, okay, in Queens, we can make a big bust. Now, just like what a lot of times with wires, these guys get paranoid. And what they do is they say, don't talk on the phone. Don't talk on the phone. Don't mention cocaine. Mention shirts and shoes. They think that's clever. Anyway, we know we can tell the wire's being burnt. So we tell them, we're going to shut the wire down. No, you cannot shut the wire down. This is my investigation. I said, this? Okay. There's nothing on the wire. He's paranoid. He's getting ready to leave town. No, you will not shut this wire down. So he goes and checks with everybody else in the office how wiretaps run till he finds out that he's wrong. Shut the wire down. Can you imagine working with somebody like this? Well,
No.
we got to do it. We got to make one more buy because that's going to bring us to the connection. My undercover actually convinced Rudy, okay, this is the main guy, to bring him to his connection in Queens. When the guy in Queens found out there was a buyer outside, he almost had a heart attack. Nobody's supposed to come to my house, right? So the buy didn't go down. But now we have intelligence on this location. So the buy goes down later that night in Manhattan. And once again, you know, you can't control the street. Everything's set up to make the buy. It's supposed to go down when all of a sudden there's an independent police action, a narcotics raid on the same block where we're supposed to buy. You can't make this stuff up.
Wow.
So we'll have to lay low now. It takes place about an hour and a half later. So now we have the product. The game plan is this. We have him for an A1 sale. That's a make felony. We're going to turn him. We're going to go before the grand jury and we're going to get an indictment because this way he doesn't get arraigned in public court. It's a separate arraignment where he becomes an informant. We have to do it on a Wednesday night. We have a grand jury on Tuesday morning. The indictment won't be ready until Wednesday. Okay. Shithead tells us, nope, it's going to be done on Tuesday. And he sends 2 of my people home, really putting us at risk. And he tells the undercover, fake it. There's no buy money. There's no buy money because you wouldn't wait a day. I had $6,000 coming in. He sends him out with no buy money to make this big deal, and he's supposed to signal us to move in. Well, he's in a radio dead zone. Thank God I had 2 undercovers in a marked police car like they were on patrol, saw him give the signal, and we moved in and we grabbed him. So everybody saw the bus go down. That's not good because you're going to get back in touch with Enrique out there in Queens. So it's not done yet. He's not finished fucking up. He's got to go one more step. He tells the guy under arrest, I know who your connection is in Queens, Enrique. He tells the bad guy who the connection is. Can you believe it?
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This guy's a jackass. So now we got to do damage control. Then he finally goes home because he's tired. My detectives convince him to cooperate. I call the district attorney at home. I said, listen, this is what happened. He goes, that asshole. I says, yeah, I know. And we don't have the indictment yet. Come down tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. So I'm down there with a team, 7 o'clock in the morning. I go to the jury foreman's house, his home residence, to get the warrant. All right. And the arrest warrant. But meanwhile, we need a search warrant. And we spent so much time with this. We finally get a judge to sign it, but he's playing softball that night. One of my detectives had to go to the softball field and get him to sign a warrant on second base. Here's what happened. Because the guy was arrested the way Stupid wanted to do it, other people saw him. And now the word's getting out. We have, the clock is ticking. If we don't get to that location in Queens real quick, we're going to lose everything. He insists on conducting a tactical plan. I says, listen, Lieutenant, your tactical plan's bullshit. This guy's going to be leaving. No, you'll do what I say. I says, it's too late. I already put 2 people out there. There are 2 people watching now. Why did you do that? Because I don't want to lose them. Okay. We hit the place. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get in without, you know, having a problem getting shot, getting somebody hurt. Who comes walking out with his wife to walk the dog? But Enrique, the major violator. So we take him in the street. Great.
Wow.
No one's going to get hurt. We get into the house. We find 2 kilos of cocaine. Rock. It hadn't been cut yet. It was just came into the place. I don't know what. It was really great. I don't know how I'm remembering all this stuff. You make me nuts.
No, it's impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive.
Well, I got to just tell you what was in the house because he's trying to delay. Okay. 2 kilos of pure cocaine in rock form. Okay. In the bedroom, $19,000 in U.S. currency. Sawed-off shotgun, loaded .38 caliber, 22 caliber pistol, starter's pistol, drug paraphernalia, cutting. If we had hit that place, we got to get somebody get killed with the shotgun. I've been shot at with a shotgun before. It's not fun. All right. And so all this, but here's the clincher. This is the best part of the story. As an example, 15 minutes after we entered the house, Enrique gets a phone call in Spanish. Watch out, Rudy was arrested in Manhattan last night. Can you imagine? It was a matter of 15 minutes, and this jackass wanted to have a tactical plan meeting. Well, this went back. The inspector found out about this. He went back. Sterling Johnson, the prosecutor, called up. Don't allow that man near any of my cases again. He's a fuck up. So, and pretty soon I'll be back I'll be going to homicide. But that was my last big case.
Wow. Impressive.
It is impressive. And what's, I suppose, even more impressive is that inspector, ass whack or dildo or whatever it was, actually got to that position, because by the sound of it, he shouldn't have got anywhere near that position in the first place.
No.
I'm telling you, it was the most frustrating example of a professional police work being undermined from within. Yeah. Usually the problem's on the outside. What the bad guy does, how they manipulate, how they change things, you know. No, our problem was this asshat who got himself into a position they didn't belong in.
Absolutely. But, you know, but 15 minutes is the difference between actually getting him on the street or going into a house and potentially being involved in a shootout and people dying.
Yeah. I've got to ask you then, how difficult is it to deal with somebody like that in terms of, you know, getting the job done and trying, because there's a fine line with being insubordinate and working around with it.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. I'm pretty astute with department protocols and what I can do. What I had going for me that he didn't have was my reputation with the district attorney's office and the chiefs downtown. I had a proven record. I was making big cases long before he decided to play narcotics cop. All right. Yeah. But you're right. There's a thin line between me saying to him, go screw yourself, right? Or disregarding an order. I'm insubordinate because he still outranks me. That's the difficulty. This is a paramilitary organization, and there's a rank structure. So I had to end run him. And thank God I was able to do that. But boy, I tell you, I don't think, well, I'm on my way out now. After that interview with the inspector, I said, don't fuck with me because I'll call the inspector. He was afraid of me.
Oh no, I can imagine. So I'll read you a little bit of a segment here then as well, which sort of deals with this case. So this is one of the most fascinating and exciting cases I've had the pleasure of writing about. Vernon coordinated with multiple agencies and district attorneys to guarantee effective prosecutions. His tactical maneuvers were exquisite as he dealt with this mafia offender with all the twists and turns. He protected his men and the case and outthought the self-serving and supercilious lieutenant, a supervisor who should never have been in an investigative command. Vernon went far and above and beyond the call of duty and honor. Those attributes were instilled in him at an early age and would continue for the rest of his career. How does that make you feel when you hear that written about you?
Well, it's nice after the fact. during the case, it wasn't so nice. I mean, I was going home talking to myself. My poor wife, she's my sounding board. She goes, Vernon, watch out. You're going to get in trouble. I said, no, I'm not going to get in trouble because I got the backing from downtown. It was so frustrating, Beans, because I knew I could get hurt. Now, don't forget, my rank is a paper rank. Detective sergeant is a scratch of the pen. Okay, that's lieutenant's money. If he preferred charges, I could lose that. So, but I'm not gonna bend over and give up my integrity or the protection of my troops for some jackass. I've dealt with jackasses my whole life. I mean, you know how to deal with them. And listen, if we were in the street, okay, he'd have his ass kicked, but not in the street, and that's the problem. And so I did enough. He made my life miserable, but it was such a great success that downtown was singing the praises. The Secret Service was writing me up and bragging. Yeah. Nassau County was happy. The transit authority, everybody in the world was happy, okay, except him.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a nice case because listen, two kilos of cocaine, fresh cocaine. That's a big seizure. Not to mention the money and the guns. And it was a nice way to leave, Okay, this is the way I'm going out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the line between and Beans mentioned that there's a fine line between insubordination and how do you go about proving somebody is incompetent then? So if they're in their role, instead of being insubordinate in terms of somebody above you giving you orders and you not sort of following them, how do you go about convincing people that actually the person above you is incompetent? I mean, is that a thing, or do you just have to suck it up and see?
I can't say it because I'm beneath his rank, but I made sure the people above him knew. And
Right? Yeah.
when the call came in from the district attorney, don't let that asshole near any investigation again.
Right.
That's an indictment. Are you kidding? He was neutralized.
Right.
I
I see.
I couldn't work with him because he's a dangerous individual. That's the kind of guy. He's really good on paper. He'll get you on paper. You'll die of 1,000 cuts before you know it because they're sneaky. Now, I'll give you an example. We had a buy operation. I never liked this undercover. The first time I saw him, I thought he was incorrect. I said, this guy is a crook. This guy shouldn't be a cop. He undercover. And we had another buy operation in the upper west side of Manhattan. And the informant that we were using was a homosexual, but he was a very flamboyant homosexual. He called himself Flash. And he was very, he was very homosexual. Anyway, he's going to be hooked up with this undercover. This black undercover was a street guy, and this is the undercover. So he meets him. He says, "Listen, first motherfucker that gets killed is you, right?" So the fag gets a stare. So now I got the undercover and I got the informant carrying out. I says, "Oh, calm down, calm down." I felt like a marriage counselor, right? I got to calm you. You're okay. No, Flash, you're correct. No, he's big, ugly, and he smells. I said, this is going to be fucking fun. So we managed to make the buy. Okay. And he came across, I want to come back. I could buy more, blah, blah, blah. And we give him instructions what to do. And he purposely goes against the instructions. He comes walking back to our car after the buyer, and he throws the evidence in the car. There's your evidence in front of the whole block. So why did he do that? He did that because he did something wrong and he wants to be burned. Okay? Well, fine if he wants to burn himself, but now Flash ends up in the hospital. Now I'm at the hospital with Flash. He got beat up for being an informant, and everybody disappears. The seller disappears. Flash, I relocate him so someplace else, and it's an open case. And we got my money that we spent. We spent a couple $1,000, I think $4,000. Right? Well, I'm pretty intense on these cases. I feel responsible for that buy money. I want this guy. I want to get him back. Well, it took months, but anyway, he shows back up on the set. Oh, maybe 6 or 7 months, just right at the time of this thing with Operation Snatch. And we grab him, okay? And now we have to have the undercover identifying. So I call Brooklyn undercover, Brooklyn Narcotics. They send the undercover up, and he reluctantly makes the ID. He wouldn't ID the picture. We had a picture, but he wouldn't ID the picture. Everybody else ID'd it, but he wouldn't. All right? So I'm saying, what's going on? Well, the bad guy sees who the undercover is. So the bad guys, if the undercover makes the identification, the undercover says to me and the detective, if he's the cop, then he should be under arrest. Let me tell you what happened. And he tells us the story. When he purchased the cocaine, he took out another piece of aluminum foil, wrapped it in his own, and stuck it in his inside pocket. Then he took what he bought and he threw it on us. Now that's bad because that makes us look like we're part of the corruption.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I did, I called up that inspector from Internal Affairs. I said, listen, Inspector, this is Vernon from Manhattan. Yeah, Vernon, what's on? I said, listen, we got a bad cop. We got a narcotics cop. I said, I'm going to send a report down to you. Me and the detective interviewed him. I said, what you ought to do is do a controlled buy. Do a controlled buy on him, see what happens. And sure as shit, a controlled buy is another undercover, make him believe he's the bad guy, selling dope to the undercover. And sure as shit, he did the same thing with the undercover. He took half the package. Now he's under arrest. Well, he starts telling me, Bernie, that Sergeant Geberth's a racist. He's a racist. So the undercovers go, no, he's not a racist. He just hates bad guys. But let me tell you what a prick asshat is, Prentice. So I wrote the report up. What happened? He gets the report and he doesn't endorse it. He takes my name off it and just puts the cop in and notifies the inspector that this officer should be recommended for the review board. He thinks he's hurting me. He doesn't know I had a conversation with the inspector and recommended a controlled buy. He doesn't know he's too stupid to realize what the tactics are of this thing.
Yeah.
So you see how dangerous he is.
Yeah.
A paper tiger. A paper tiger.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. So I just want to take you back to something that you said earlier when you were sharing a story there about Operation Snatch. So you mentioned about the shotgun, and you said you've been under fire a shotgun before. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that was like?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
So you mentioned there that there was a shotgun and the dangers of being shot at with a shotgun, and you said you'd experienced.
Oh, the circuit.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what that's like?
Well, yeah, okay. So then these guys sell drugs. They don't just sell drugs openly. They do it covertly. But they pay people to be spotters. And they're at different locations. And what they do is they watch the street all the time. As soon as a strange car, a strange person, someone they don't know comes on, they put an alarm out, right? So that's realizing what kind of, and that's what I talked about before, realizing that kind of circuit that I was in. We didn't do overt surveillance on the undercover. The undercover was good enough. I trust him to do his job without burning him. I pulled back. The whole idea of me using a marked police car would have given me the opportunity to not only surveil, but to back him up and protect him.
Yeah.
But the asshat wouldn't let me do it. So, I mean, it's craziness. It really is. And it's very frustrating because you're trying to do the job, and at the same time, and the men, the troops, they know, and they're waiting for you to, boss, I'm saying, we're in a box here, watch. But I pulled a rabbit out of the hat.
I've got a question, Vern. So, you deal with all these bad guys, so day in, day out, and there's always a chain. There's always, a bigger bad guy and a bigger bad guy, and before you know it, you're at, the final boss. Yeah. At what point do you, as an operation, at what point do you decide to either arrest the guys that you've got or go after the next guy up the chain? Like, where does that stop, and who makes that decision?
Oh, okay. Well, lots of decisions made on the operation. Don't forget, this guy Rudy was in control of that whole block. There were other dealers. There were minor dealers. We're not going to waste our time with those. Once we got to Rudy, okay, we knew Rudy had the big connection, the importer. All right.
Right.
So now, in order to make a case, you should have at least 2 buys on the subject. Okay, because for the prosecution, purposes, they want at least 2 buys. So 2 buys, then we make the big one. So at that point, we already know because of the undercover how sharp he was when he was brought out to Queens. He didn't just sit in the car like a dope. He was taking addresses down and memorizing. Once we did the surveillance, now we know where the connection is. That's when we make a decision. Take this middle guy out. Take this guy out.
Yeah.
And secrete him so nobody knows he's under arrest. And then go after the big guy. And of course, with Lieutenant Dildo, they almost blew it. If we waited for another 15 minutes, we would have lost everything. And here we have, think about it. Here you have me going to the jury foreman's home, his house, to get a warrant, an indictment warrant. We got a judge playing baseball, stopping the baseball game to do a search warrant on second base. Everybody's moving fast except the Dildo. He's got to have his ego fed. He's a tactical plan. I don't think he understands a tactical plan. A tactical plan gives you the ability to differentiate from the plan when something changes. It's called improvise, overcome, and get the job done.
Right? Adapt and overcome, or whatever it is. I don't know what the phrase is. Yeah, exactly.
But this was a complicated case, but it was a good case because we involved other agencies, and then getting the coordination from the other agencies. That's a big thing, because these agencies aren't just going to jump in because you ask them. They want to know if they have a case and what kind of people they're working with. When they got off the phone with that lieutenant, okay, those two guys from Nassau County, those detectives said, "Who the hell is this stupid son of a bitch?" And that's what you can't be half pregnant, Lieutenant. I thought he'd die 1,000. He got bitch smacked by two people in another jurisdiction that saw through him. And the Secret Service guy saw through. So it wasn't Vernon that was the problem. The problem was the dildo, because no matter who he worked with, he caused friction.
Wow. So when you look back on that case, I mean, you must take a great deal of pride in getting there and not just overcoming the adversaries placed by the bad guys, but by the guys you have to work with as well.
Yeah, I felt good about what I did, especially with the troops, and you gain, like we talked about, you gain a reputation, and your reputation is so important. I mean, you could have the best reputation in the world and do something stupid, and you could ruin it for your life. Like as Pierre the Bridge Builder, I don't know if you heard that story, but we won't talk about it on the podcast. but no, it's constant, and you got to police yourself, and don't ever let your ego get in the way of common sense. I never believe my own newsprint or the things that people say about me. Yeah. I'd be a pompous ass. Can you imagine? Oh, he's a great detective. He's the greatest. Bullshit. Well, right. I put my pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time. Okay. Yeah, people are funny. Well, look at people in Hollywood. They think they're so important they can tell us how to vote, right? I'm going to ask some jackass who doesn't know who he is, and he got a script to find out who he is, and I should ask him how to vote.
Yeah.
No, very true, very true. Well, we are around about the hour mark, which is where we normally wrap these episodes up. Gaz, have you got any final questions?
I can't believe we're an hour in.
No,
like genuinely, like Vern. Some of the stories. I mean, I love you, Vern. You're a legend, and I love listening to the stories that you give us and you provide us, and Inspector Dildo or Ass Hack or whatever it was that you called him. Just brilliant stories. I love listening to them. And as I say, so long way those stories.
Waiting for a review from Gaz.
There you go. You see.
Reviews from Britain.
Yeah, that's it, guys. You need to review the book.
I'll review the book for you.
I've done it.
I'll review the book.
Yeah.
I'll review the book. No problem at all.
Yeah. So, do you want to tell folks who are listening to this episode where they can find this fabulous book, which I'm holding within my hand?
Well, it took 3 chapters to cover that case.
Yeah, well, it did. Yeah.
As you were telling the story, we kept flicking through. We're like, oh, here we are.
We kept tabs. We kept tabs this end. Yeah. So, for anyone's interested in picking up the book, you can head to Amazon and you search for Vernon's name. And the book is called The Godfather of Homicide. You can pick it up there. I'd recommend doing so. It is a fantastic read. And as you can tell, if I hold it up the side to the camera there, if you're watching it on the video, it's actually quite a weighty tome as well to get through. There's a lot of stories in there.
A lot of stories in there. And half of them aren't in there. Okay. I mean, if you had to tell about everything you did, you'd need like some sort of a library. Now, I try to pick the ones that have a kind of a twist, or it's funny, or relates to the victim, something that people could relate to when the average person reads it. Because if you're not a cop, you don't want to read procedures and stuff like that.
No.
It's very boring. But the cases, if they have a twist or a turn or something, and like I say, I did it as a legacy book, and that's what it is. It's not a moneymaker, and it was intended to make money. But I love the reviews. The reviews are unbelievable. People who I haven't seen in years, and they remember me for different reasons. As I say, wow. I'm a pretty good guy after all, no matter what my wife says.
Well, you're a good guy to us, Vern, and that's all that matters in our world.
The question I have to ask is, though, did you ever send a copy of the book to the dildo?
And
sign it at the front.
Yeah, to the dildo. Yeah, I think what dildo is that? You jackass.
Oh, brilliant. So that leaves us for us to wrap it up. Vernon, did you want to say your goodbyes to our listeners for this episode?
I certainly do. I really appreciate hanging out with you guys. I wish I had like a tall one, because instead I have water because I don't want to drink in uniform. Blah blah blah. Bullshit. But no, if I start drinking beer, I have to visit the restroom. We don't want to do that.
No, we don't want to do that halfway through. No.
But no, it's always a pleasure with you guys. And, you know, if we come up with something else, you have the book and you look through it and see what you see.
This won't be the last episode that we do with you. Absolutely.
But, you know, like I said in one of the earlier podcasts, you just don't go into homicide without a background.
No,
And
that's right.
the background, you're developing in street smarts, procedures and things. But also, don't forget, I was going to school in between. Got my first master's degree, you know, when I was in narcotics. And then I used that master's degree to do the textbook. And then I got my second master's degree in clinical psychology so I could do the profiling and have a legitimate standing. And what happened is I have this textbook called Practical Homicide Investigation that is the Bible used across the world. Scotland Yard has their copy, I know that. But I'm doing a revision one year. And because of my clinical background, I'm looking at all these sex-related stuff. I go, holy shit, what the hell's going on? You know, what was going on is called the internet. All these jackasses who had no way of validating their dysfunction now meet online and validate it. And some of the stuff is outrageous. I had to do a whole second book, sex-related homicide investigation, or homicide and death investigation, because I included autoerotic cases as well. And a lot of psychology went into that book. But between you and me, I couldn't publish that book today. It's so politically incorrect when I give you the reasons why this is happening.
Oh, no. Publish it. It'd be great. Do it. You know, you have to do it.
It's out there.
Yeah.
It is out there, dude.
Yeah. As Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations. All right. I love Clint Eastwood. I love getting even with bad guys. It's such a pleasure.
Cool. Well, we're done for another episode, guys. Do you want to sum it up?
Loved it. Always do love it. Vern's a legend. Can't wait for the next time.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Oh, no. Welcome and take care.
Friends around the mic, kicking back, alright. Day turns into night, podcast in the spotlight.